The Phala Phala saga continues to divide public opinion in the country. President Cyril Ramaphosa on Monday has filed papers in the Constitutional Court to review and set aside the Section 89 panel report, which found that he may have violated the Constitution. Now, this morning, we look at the reputation of the president and, by extension, that of the country. How damaging has this whole saga been? And we speak to Reputation Manager Chris Vick, who joins us via the virtual platform. Chris, good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Let's start with brand Ramaphosa. How does that look right now?
Good morning. Mismanaged, I think, is the best way to describe it. Unconvincing, slow out of the blocks, some contradictions in the narrative. But it's not surprising. I mean, if I think back, government and the governing party have really downgraded their approach to communication, generally, whether it's COVID, whether it's good work government is doing, missed opportunities, and a lot more own goals, and they're just not being managed effectively. Bearing in mind that there's a communications aspect to it, but it also involves political leadership and decisions and legal leadership and decisions. I think the combination has presented an image of an issue that is being mismanaged.
Yeah. Let's look at it from the get-go, Chris Vick. And we begin from that moment when this report came out. The president, in a way, almost went to ground. Then the spokesperson comes out to say the president might address later this afternoon, and I think that was sometime late last week, and the president simply had not addressed the nation, I think, up until the following week. When you talk about the aspect of communication, was that badly handled, or should we understand, given the events that were unfolding at the time?
Well, I think given what was at stake and what is still at stake, which is the future presidency of South Africa, and the many issues that the nation is grappling with, poverty, unemployment, etc. It's particularly important that a sense of confidence emanates from the presidency all the time, but particularly during a crisis. People want reassurance. They're unsettled. Is the president going to walk? Who's going to replace them? What does it mean for them as individuals? And I think, it's about good crisis communication is about good timing. But it's also about managing the expectations of the people that you interact with. And I think it's a sign of the sort of fumbling that was going on, but possibly, again, also different approaches between the communications team, the political team, and the legal team. And if they're not aligned, you're going to have situations like that where an expectation is created that there's going to be transparency in a direct message, and it has to be called up at the last minute. I think it's indicative of the environment in which this is happening, where taking the public into your confidence, being transparent and being timeless with your messaging is just not being regarded as a priority.
Yeah. Let's then look at the implications for the country, Chris. You have, and it goes without saying, international media has been focused on this story. And you also have ratings agency Fitch reported in the Business Day today. They're talking about how if Ramaphosa is impeached, this could lead to economic uncertainty. Do you think enough has been done, at least after this whole saga seemingly dying down? Do you think enough has been done to not only reassure residents or citizens of South Africa, but the markets?
Well, I mean, the market is a strange thing. I mean, it has its own moods and its mood swings. But I think we need to remember where President Ramaphosa was a month ago internationally. The tremendous success he had around climate change, the just transition funding, etc. I mean, he really was on a high. He then went to meet the British royal family, and comes back, and the headlines globally have changed. It's all about him being on the defensive, these questions around the money, where it came from. You probably saw yesterday Sky News, one of the biggest global networks, found the person who ostensibly paid the money for the buffalo. So this is running. And it's a story with legs. It's not the sort of story that's going to go away quickly. I can't imagine it's building confidence in South Africa, not just because there are questions around the head of state, but the way it's been managed. You know, the news that he was going to resign, which was then amended, that creates a sign of a president who's not just a bit disinterested in the affairs of state, which is how I think he's been perceived in some quarters, but is now a reluctant president. He wanted to go and he was stopped. The political shenanigans around this, the power plays within the NEC, the NWC, they create an image of a country that is politically very turbulent at a time when investors would be looking for stability and certainty. So not good. The ramifications are huge. Yeah,
and as we taper down, Chris, you mentioned the political ramifications of this, from the NWC to the NEC. How difficult a job is it to manage public relations when it comes to the president and the image of the president in relation to what's about to take place next week, and that is that all-important conference of the ANC, which might decide whether or not the president returns?
Well, I think a large percentage of society is interested in what's going on. I don't think quite to the degree that the media is, or the ANC is. I think for broader society, it just looks like a mess, you know. It's more of the same. It's the same leadership battles. It's the same impact on service delivery, which is ground to a halt at national level and provincial level. It's the same stories of corruption. You know, that narrative is not a good one. It's not a good one for the ANC going into its national conference. It's particularly not good heading towards an election in 2024, where people already feel the governing party is out of touch. It's not interested in the issues that society is really concerned about. And that's not a good image to have. I must say, though, I think that sort of, I don't know if it's apathy or antipathy, but the sort of disdain for the political shenanigans across political parties is also quite profound, you know. And I think within civil society, where I sometimes dabble, there are a lot of discussions now around how do we stop the broader problem, which is a lack of accountability from our political leadership, a lack of transparency. How do we build a political structure where there is accountability on issues like this, that it doesn't take years and years and years for there to be some kind of accountability for wrongdoing? I think those deeper questions are starting to hit people. As I say, I think there's a bit of fatigue about the personality battles. They're interesting, and they might make a difference on that. But day to day, people have other things to think about, and I think that's where possibly the ANC should reapply itself once it gets this one out of the way.
Yeah. Chris, finally, how does the president regain the confidence of society? And I'm asking you this in anticipation of the SARS report, the Hawks that are investigating, the public protector that's investigating, the Reserve Bank that is investigating. Do you think that the president could possibly walk this back or successfully get over this?
Well, I don't know if it's what I think or what he thinks, you know. I mean, we need to see an appetite from this president to get things done properly. We need to see an appetite to be transparent and accountable around this issue and give it the attention it deserves, you know. I mean, this has been dragging on since May this year, and it's not going to go away. As you say, there's SARB, there's the Hawks, there's the potential for private prosecutions. Anybody who has an issue with the president now has a very big axe to attack him with. There are the legal processes and other processes that are going to make this drag on for a long, long time to come. All the more reason why I think we need an honest reflection. We need a proper, sincere explanation from the president as to what's going on. Bearing in mind that there are processes, legal processes that might be affected, but we need maximum transparency within the legal strategy. And we need explanations to some of the answers. I also do think that, Oli, the one thing I've been fascinated by is the president has the ability, the ANC has the ability to mobilize other people within its structures to ask the sort of questions that are being asked with hindsight.
Yeah.
What was Arthur Fraser's motive? What were the problems with the Section 89 panel? The problem is you can't criticize the structure of a process once there's an outcome. then it looks like foul play. If there were issues with these processes, they should have been raised very, very early on. And as I say, from the beginning, as much transparency as possible and taking the public into their confidence.
So what you're saying, Chris, if I'm hearing you correctly, the president needs to address the nation and he needs to tell us exactly what happened, and he needs to tell us also what he thinks the motive of people like Arthur Fraser were for bringing this out in the public in the first place. But do you really think he will do that, given the legal processes that are ongoing right now?
I think he should, but I think it should be more than an address to the nation. I think we need this press conference that you and others have been calling from. We need to have a dialogue, an exchange where the president can answer these questions. If his response is, I can't deal with that, it'll compromise the legal process, cool, but let's have an explanation and let's have some engagement. In terms of the latter part of your question, I don't think he'll do it. There's been no sign of a real appetite to get on top of this issue politically from day one. And if there's no real political appetite, I can't see the communications appetite coming, because I said in my opening, it's just been downgraded. It's almost like public opinion doesn't matter. And 18 months or whatever away from an election, public opinion matters more than it has before.
Chris Vick, let me thank you very much for your time and indeed your insights here. He is a reputation manager talking to us about the public relations nightmare that faces the president right now and, by extension, the country. How do we attract investment into an environment like this? I mean, we're talking load shedding right now. Stage 4, stage 3, it's a mess.